Hey, what's up? It's Jared with State of Tech, and today was the big day where Apple released their new versions of the iPhone 8 and the iPhone X. So let's have a moment of silence for the number 9, because everybody is dissing the number 9 right now. Anyways, so we have a couple of new iPhones to choose from, and it's really interesting what Apple did here. It's typical Apple. Let's get the most out of the hardware and stuff that we've already created, and just sell that and sell it and sell it and sell it until we have to do something different. That has been Apple's kind of MO for a while, as we haven't really seen anything too exciting come out of new iPhones. But, I mean, in this move towards bezel-less phones, which all companies have been doing lately, trying to get rid of, unnecessary wasted space around the outside of the phone and put as big of a screen in our hands as possible, iPhone is doing that with the iPhone X, whereas the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus are more of a slightly improved upon version of the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. So we're not doing any 7Ss or anything like that. They jump straight from 7 to 8, which keeps them in line with Samsung and their S8 and S8 Plus. So everybody's numbers are kind of up to spec now. Everybody's got the same, except for, of course, the iPhone going to 10. And it makes sense that they would have an iPhone 10 because it is the 10th year anniversary. And so a lot of us had high expectations for the iPhone X, or the iPhone 10, they're calling it. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what the differences are between these, because I'm already getting text messages and people asking me, what's the difference? Obviously, there are differences in the way that the phone looks, but under the hood, what are we looking at? What would actually make you pay a couple more $100 for a phone, depending on the price point that you're going at? So let's talk first about the display. That's the most obvious one. It makes the phone look completely different as far as the design goes. I mean, the phones are still moderately shaped about the same, but the phone is bigger. The display's bigger. It goes from edge to edge, wasting as little space as possible for things like bezels, and that looks really great. I mean, when you see the iPhone 10, it looks great. It's a good-looking phone. It's definitely going to catch the eye of people. And it's going to be easy to do that because the iPhone has looked so much the same for a long time. I mean, unless you're still rocking an iPhone 4 or even an early iPhone 5, it's really hard to tell if you're an iPhone 6, 6S, or 7 user. Most people really can't tell the difference between those phones, except for the dual camera on the iPhone 7 Plus. So with the iPhone 10, you're going to have a much different looking phone. Obviously, that display is beyond HD now. Of course, they're calling it Super Retina HD because it can't just be HD like everybody else. If somebody else has an HD phone that's at 1920 by 1080, it's an HD phone. But with Apple, it's a Retina HD phone. And they call it Retina, or the iPhone 8 Plus, which has 401 pixels per inch. Of course, Samsung has phones with higher pixel depth than that, but they just call it an HD display. Actually, they call it a 4K display because at a cheaper price, they're putting 4K displays in their phones. So the difference there is that you're getting much higher resolution out of the iPhone 10, which is great. It's about time that Apple moved in that direction. They also decided to move into the world of OLED displays for the first time, which a lot of other phone manufacturers have been using OLED displays for a while, like Samsung. Apple finally, and they came out and said that the technology is finally there, and where OLED can live up to their high standards. And whatever that means, I mean, the iPhone display has always looked really good. Samsung's always had, especially for the last few years, slightly better looking displays because of that OLED technology. Apple has now jumped onto that. They're using OLED. They have a 2436 by 1125 pixel resolution at 458 pixels per inch. That iPhone 10 display is going to look brilliant, and there will be a noticeable difference in that display than the iPhone 8 or the iPhone 8 Plus, not only in just the shape of the display, because obviously the shape of the display is going to be different, but in the quality of the display, you're going to notice a huge difference there. So that's going to be one major one. The next thing is the move away from a home button. A lot of people were speculating, saying, well, maybe you'll be able to unlock your phone with your thumbprint anywhere on the display. Well, no, Apple did away with that altogether and are going with a Face ID technology that they have developed. There is a kind of retina or iris scanner on a lot of other phones, but I've never really liked them. I didn't like the way that the iris scanner would work on the Samsung phones that I have. It was easily spoofed. I mean, I wear glasses, and so I scan my face with my glasses. I set it up that way. I had some sunglasses on, and I was still unable to unlock my phone with the sunglasses. I just feel that it's too easy to spoof. But with the Face ID, it looks like Apple is really taking advantage of what they're calling their true depth camera. And I liked the display or the setup that they showed on the display of how you rotate your face around. It's really getting kind of a true depth of your face, taking in all the contours. And then they said they even use machine learning to better recognize your face so that the Face ID gets even smarter over time. I think that Apple actually did a good thing by not launching Face ID maybe a couple of years ago when they could have gotten away with it, but actually putting in the time and the work to make Face ID stick out from amongst the competition. No other phone manufacturer that I'm aware of has something that looks as good and as solid as Face ID. So I think that that's a huge thing in comparison to the iPhone 8, huge selling point. Whether or not we all want to unlock our phones with our faces, or if you prefer that fingerprint scanner, which is kind of the tried and true for the last several generations of most of our phones, having a fingerprint scanner doesn't require you to look at your phone, doesn't require to hold your phone a certain way or anything like that. So you're definitely going to have to, use your phone a little bit differently. And then we'll see how it works, in the dark and when your phone is, when there's no light around and everything, how well is it going to work? Time will tell there, but I feel like Apple has done their homework. They wouldn't release a half-baked way to unlock the phone. And then, of course, you'll still have your backup, password or, code, PIN code that you use to unlock your phone. We have the dual cameras on the iPhone 10. We also have the dual cameras on the iPhone 8 Plus, but only a single camera on the iPhone 8. That's as expected. It doesn't look like they really did much upgrading to the cameras, especially on the iPhone 8. Not that they really needed to. I mean, the iPhone 7 Plus and 7 cameras were really good. So do they really need to update the cameras? I mean, Samsung didn't really update their cameras from their S7 to their S8. Just maybe some software tweaks, which they definitely are making here in these phones as well. But then you jump up to the iPhone 10 and you have 10x zoom as opposed to 5x zoom, which you're getting on the iPhone 8 Plus, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's digital zoom, so digital zoom means that when it zooms in, it's actually using software to zoom in, which you're going to lose some quality. You're not going to get the best quality like you would if it was optical zoom. Optical zoom means that the lens is actually changing that focal length as opposed to digital zoom. The only way to do that on these smartphones, because they don't have the typical lenses that can move, you do that by having two different cameras. You have one camera that has a certain lens, you have another camera that has a different lens that's telephoto. What is unique about the iPhone 10 is that both cameras appear to have optical stabilization, as opposed to the iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus, which only one of their cameras has optical stabilization. So on the iPhone 8 Plus, one camera will have it, the telephoto will not. Of course, the iPhone 8, which only has one camera, does have optical image stabilization. And that's pretty huge when you're using the telephoto mode. That means you're zooming in further. When you're zoomed in further, you're going to notice those the camera shake more, those movements that your hands make when you're trying to film or take pictures. And so having the optical image stabilization actually is going to be a benefit there. They have changed out what they had called the FaceTime camera for a lot of years and are calling the true depth camera of the iPhone 10. So on the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, your front-facing camera is your FaceTime camera, whereas on the iPhone 10, you have the true depth camera, which is used for facial unlocking, to unlock your phone with a Face ID. And then also the front-facing camera now will have portrait mode. How will it do portrait mode, you ask? Well, probably software based, because there aren't dual cameras on the front of the phone like there are on the back of the phone, so that operates differently. But it is doing some sort of a portrait mode to blur out the background and kind of give you that shallow depth of field look that everybody fell in love with the dual cameras on the other side of the phones. So now with the iPhone 10, you have portrait mode on the front and back of the camera, which, we'll see how that works. I mean, I think it definitely makes a photo less distracting when you have that blurred out background. And anything that you can do, I guess, to make the photos out of a front-facing camera better is good. So I look forward to seeing what the iPhone 10 does there, as opposed to our standard FaceTime front-facing cameras that we've had for so many years. The iPhone 10 also has wireless charging, and what's cool about that is that Apple has their own charging pad, of course, that's going to come out early next year. And that charging pad, you'll be able to set your phone, your watch, and your AirBuds on it, and actually be able to charge all those items at the same time, which is pretty cool. It's a bummer that isn't going to come out until early next year, but the fact that it's all enabled and it works that way is great. The 10 is also going to support QI charging pads, which are the typical wireless charging pads that have been in existence for several years now, which is great because, there are some Starbucks that have wireless charging pads. There are lots of places that have those available. And then if you already had a wireless charging pad for some other device that you've had, that has QI-enabled wireless charging, then you'll be able to use that. But Apple is coming out with their own, and that'll be available next year. So the huge thing is the price jump. I mean, we have the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, which are priced pretty much the same as prior year phones. I mean, the iPhone 8 is starting at $799 for 64 gigs, and then it jumps up to $949 for 256. Those are the two options, and it comes in a few different colors. And then, of course, for the iPhone 10, you have two color options, and it starts at $999. So they got in under that 4-digit price, but $999. And then, of course, if you want to jump up to the 256 to make that phone a little more future-proof, you're looking at $1,149, which is really a lot to spend on a phone. I mean, when Samsung announced that their Galaxy Note 8 was going to be $949, everybody balked, and the pricing is just crazy. But Apple is right there with their phones, and I think what they're really doing is they're positioning the iPhone 8 to be that upgrade to maybe people who had an iPhone 6 or a 6S still. They're going to jump to the iPhone 8 because they want, a little bit more powerful phone. They want slightly better camera, and they want, some of those features that they would expect from 2017 that they don't have in maybe their 2015 phone. But for those who are bleeding edge, got to have the best, they are going to go with the iPhone 10 because it is the new phone. It is the new style, the new look, and the new features all in one phone. They didn't really do that to the iPhone 8 because that's the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 is the future. It's where Apple's going with their phones. It's what Apple will probably, as far as features and stuff, start to roll out into future iPads. And so we'll look for that change there. The iPhone 8 is that transitionary phone, I think, where, you don't want to spend the big dollars. You're not ready to spend $1,000 plus on a phone yet, and probably those things will even out over time. But who knows, maybe this means from here on out, Apple is always going to have this premium device so that they can get that couple extra $100 out of those of us that have to have the best that Apple has to offer. So what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose an iPhone 8, an 8 Plus, or an iPhone 10 or X or whatever you want to call it? What's going to be your choice? I mean, for me, I haven't been too much of an Apple user lately because I have been less than excited about what Apple has to offer. And the iPhone 10 really doesn't have a ton more to offer. It is new design, it is shiny, it is nice looking phone, it has a few new features that are cool, but is it enough to make you jump from, a phone that is priced like a Galaxy S series phone, a Galaxy S8 or an S8 Plus, which is like the iPhone 8 or the iPhone Plus, Or are you going to jump up to the higher price point like a Galaxy Note 8 or the iPhone 10? The only thing the iPhone 10 is missing is a stylus, and it would be technically a Note. But anyways, it's a great looking phone, and I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one and seeing what all the hype is about. So let me know in the comments below what you think. What are you going to purchase? What are you excited about? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Click on like if you like this video, and subscribe to our channel here if you want to see more videos. We'll definitely, as we get our hands on some of these devices, start to share our thoughts about them a little bit more. So make sure to click subscribe so that you could be notified when we get that content out. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.